Hello and welcome to another power packed episode of The War of Worth. And this is episode 8, which is the last and the final episode of this season. And we have someone with us who's an author, a magnetic personality coach. She is also a Josh Talk speaker and has featured in multiple podcasts already. It's my honor to present to you Dr. Lakshmi Ajoy, of the mystical yogini, a spiritual guide, my mentor in many different ways, and a great friend too. Today, she is here to share her pearls of spiritual wisdom, her journey from being just a daughter, a mother, to someone who's today authored multiple books. She's also recently been on a Himalayan trek, her entire journey of spirituality, etc. She's here to share a lot with us. So stay tuned for this wonderful episode. And who knows, your life might just change by the end of this episode. So, welcome, Dr. Lakshmi.
Thank you so very much, Nisha, for the wonderful introduction. I must have truly done something really good in my past life to deserve this kind of accolade and encouraging words coming from you. And it's my absolute honor to be here with you, conversing on different topics of mutual interest and hoping to spread the light to our audience who would be viewing this.
So, Lakshmi, I'm very curious to know, was spirituality an area of interest for you always, or did this develop in the course of your life? So, tell us a little bit about your childhood as well. Like, who were you, before your journey into spirituality?
So a lot of people at the onset, I must say that a lot of people confuse spirituality with being religious. But there is a major difference there because being spiritual is being able to know your true purpose and connecting with not just, one God or a divine form, but all of life kind. And when
Mm,
I'm talking of life kind, I'm also including the resources that provides and nourishes us, including the planets, all of the cosmic world, all the other resources like the mountains, the waters, the rocks, and the stones. And believing that we are one with that innate energy, the divine energy resides as one in all of us. And this concept was earlier on introduced to me by my maternal grandfather in a very subtle way. He was, as I would call him, my first guru. And
wonderful.
in many ways, he has shaped my life to bringing in the discipline, to teaching me the ways of life, to giving me wonderful life experiences and the rich cultural value embedded system with
Mhm.
loads of virtues as I was growing up. So the seed was planted or sowed very deep on or early on in my life when I was still a child, maybe 5, 6, 7 years
Hmm.
of age, and still in primary school, where the actual nourishing of an individual begins. And that is when he taught me wonderful life lessons, hand holding me through the journey. At that time, I obviously did not know about spirituality as a concept, but there were teachings which came from the grandparents of both my sides, like both my paternal and maternal grandparents. They taught me to be humane to everybody around me, to treat animals and all of life kind with respect, to value the food on the plate,
Hmm.
simple little things which added and made so much more sense to not waste things. When we used to go out to the shops, they used to ask us to carry our own bags and not rely on external bags because that would add to the waste or contribute to the compost of the environment. And these are very small little things which made me mindful on my journey. And I
Wow.
think the culminative effect or impact of that value system, which was ingrained into me from a very long time, that makes me the person I stand here before all of you today. So that is how I think spirituality has always been an innate part of me. And today I work on it with a lot more mindfulness. And that is where the difference lies. And I know that this journey is meant to be, and this is what spirituality is.
Amazing. So, what did you study in school and college, and how did you decide that when I become a coach in the future or I become a certain person? Did you always have this vision that I would take a certain path or do a certain?
It's rather funny actually because I probably did not realize it until a couple of years ago what my actual passion was. I was always interested in teaching others and hand-holding them because I remember I was a child all of 9 years when I started tutoring other children around in my neighborhood. And people would actually send their children to me to have them coached on different subjects like English and mathematics and sometimes science.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to get my, monthly pay of say 1,000 odd rupees. This was way back in the late 80s, okay, and early 90s. It was pretty surprising that people laid their trust about their children and their education on a young shoulders like mine. And I felt always grateful for that opportunity. And I used to do that with a lot of sincerity. And as I grew up, I was aspiring to be a medical doctor. Unfortunately, or should I say fortunately, because I lost my maternal grandfather one day before the CET, which was introduced that very first year.
Mm-hmm.
And for 20 long years, which is almost 2 decades, I was mourning his absence from my life. And I said that because he's not there, and even if I end up being a medical doctor, I would never be able to get him back into my life.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that vacuum was so deeply created that I dropped the idea of becoming a medical practitioner
Mm-hmm.
and took up other random courses, which I did my hotel management. I completed my BA in arts. So I did my Bachelor of Arts in History and Psychology, following an MA in History, followed by a BEd degree, which is a Bachelor's of Education. I was called by my college to be a full-time lecturer for the BEd college. But life again had other plans. My husband didn't want me to take up a full-time job, considering the fact that we had two children there to take care of. And so the journey of becoming a teacher stalled once again. And yet I was aspiring to do my PhD thereafter, for which my husband said, not right now, the children need more attention. And then life took a different course where I pursued my Reiki Grandmaster and other holistic forms of healing, because I also went through a turbulent journey of depression, anxiety, panic attacks, and overthinking, and multiple autoimmune conditions which impacted my health as in the late 20s and early 30s.
Mm-hmm.
And I was also doubtful of whether or not I'll be ever able to overcome all this to lead a normal life. And somewhere along the journey, the spirituality, the seed of spirituality, which was once sown by my grandparents, I think it resurfaced, which was lying dormant, maybe because of the weather around me. And once the air around it cleared and the
Mm-hmm.
uh, atmosphere was more conducive for me as a person and soul to grow, it resurfaced and started blossoming itself. From being a seed to a seedling to a sapling and then nurturing slowly and steadily. I would still say that I'm still a small bush trying to grow and nurture myself into a strong, deep rooted tree. And
Mm-hmm.
it's a lifetime journey, right? We
Yeah.
all are constantly learning, and there is so much to learn. So
Right.
what I have done here is I have only learned a fistful, and what is yet to be learned is as wide as the cosmic universe. So I
Mm-hmm.
keep saying this to everyone. The most important thing that I was taught in this journey is to remain humble and be open to receiving the ideas that come from around us.
Mm-hmm.
And that has shaped my life in many ways. So today I lead a medicine-free life. I'm a naturopath. I'm a past life regression therapist. I've done my Reiki Grandmaster. I've done other holistic healing modalities like angel healing therapy, numerology, and past life regression, along with tarot card reading, angel healing therapies, crystals, and so much more. And I feel that this is probably not enough. There is so much more to learn, and the journey is on.
So that's so awesome, Dr. Lakshmi. Despite the numerous challenges that life has thrown at you, you have always come back stronger. Now, coming back to your life and your relationship, with your daughters, with your partner. How do you balance these roles, and how do you manage to make time for all of your little pursuits along with being an author and being a magnetic personality coach? Where do you find the time, the strength, the energy to do these things?
So earlier on, it was definitely a big challenge trying to cope up with so many things on my plate. There was so much I wanted to do, but I could never find the time to do it. And then I realized that something was wrong, and I needed to figure out what exactly was going on. Then when I learned my neuro-linguistic programming, one thing which I was taught there was to, uh, list out my goals and have a clear idea of what I'm supposed to do and how I'm supposed to execute it.
Hmm.
So I listed all my long term and short term goals, and they were like the daily goals which I would achieve towards achieving the larger goals.
Hmm.
This helped me manage my time better,
Hmm.
right? So listing your priority and knowing what are the activities that you have to go through during this entire day gives you a lot of time to plan those activities which can be done off maybe in 10 minutes, 15 minutes. They may be important activities, but they may not take enough time, so they would just take a very small insignificant amount of time.
Hmm.
So you can always get them over and done with before you proceed to larger, uh,
Bigger goals.
bigger goal for the day.
Hmm.
And these small, tiny goals would eventually culminate and, help me achieve the bigger goals for the week, for the month, and so on. So, unless you have a clarity of what you exactly want, you will never be able to figure out how you want to go about doing it. So,
Yeah.
what is most important is to write it all down. Have a vision, have a purpose, and know exactly what you want to achieve in the next 1 year, 5 years, and so on. And then break it down into smaller, achievable goals, milestones, and say that, so every year I have this plan of uh, trekking to one mountain at least.
Hmm. Hmm.
Or every year I have this idea of writing at least two books, if not two, at least one book. So maybe one book in 7 or 8 months
Hmm.
should be good enough for me. But once I'm done with the book, I would also ensure that, an audio book follows immediately.
Hmm.
So this is how I would plan. So by this time, this is the course that I want to complete. By this time, I want to be able to achieve so many sales. Or by this time, and how am I going to achieve that is what I would further target myself. Should
Hmm.
I be doing more posts, or maybe, go on Instagram live, or maybe work on Amazon ads, or, write one chapter a day towards my new book, promote the cover of my new book, whatever it is. And then I would chunk it out. So obviously I cannot be writing and, doing a live
Right.
Instagram and posting or making a Canva poster and posting it on the same day. It doesn't work like every single day has to be planned and chalked out in a way that it finally helps you achieve the larger goal. And then you tick out the small micro goals that you've achieved towards
Hmm.
achieving the bigger goal. And there could be other things like, in a day, I'm going to take 3 consultations, be a part of so much, include maybe say 50 pages of reading in a day,
Hmm.
or complete one book in a day, depending on whatever time. Have time for meditation because it gives you a lot of clarity. Do not scroll on social media and other random, you know, like your Facebook or Instagram. Don't do that when you're working on a specific goal or task,
Hmm.
because it would obviously take away your time and you wouldn't even probably realize it would be too late. So when we plan things out and we are focused on one specific goal, we work on that and ensure that it gets completed before we take a break. And of course, every evening or every possible meal with the family,
Hmm. Hmm.
so that there is a heartfelt conversation without the gadgets around us. So
Hmm.
it's just us on the table with the food, having a light-hearted banter or chit chat and conversation about how things have been, and random things about some past holiday, bringing back some good memories to life and things like that, which also gives us the ability to spend quality time with each other as a family. Yeah, this is the best way of making time out. And maybe when it's the weekend, we would all indulge in a game together, a board game or things like that. So we should again bring the family time together, add in quality time there.
Hmm.
And we reserve that 1 hour or 1.5 hours for the family, and then we all go back to doing our own tasks and follow
Hmm.
the routine. Or
Hmm.
maybe we could all watch a movie together. So that's an activity which brings the family together. So there are always time spent for entertainment together with the family. There are meal times shared with the family. So everything automatically gets balanced out in a beautiful way because they are planned like that.
Hmm.
And you end up, having a lot of time for things that you actually want to do. So
Hmm.
when I'm coaching, nobody would come and bother or disturb me as to, I would want your attention. They wouldn't vie for my attention.
Hmm.
And that is how managing tasks has not been so difficult. And I think everybody can do this. It's an achievable uh, target, not so difficult.
Yeah. I think for a lot of us who are still in that anxiety mode where we are constantly in fight or flight, living in our what ifs and what if something goes wrong. And this actually comes as a good practice to do where we kind of figure out how much is doable because everything is not doable in a day
Right,
or two or even within a week. So
right.
it might make more sense to kind of look at and break down those tasks like you said, and you know this will help a lot of us going through anxiety with doing tasks or goal completion and many other things. So thank you so
One
much for
one
sharing
one
that.
small thing which I'd like to add to this is, not just having a goal on your mind, but having a written goal that's very specific on what exact activity that you wish to do at this on this
Particular
particular
time.
day
Hmm.
or within this particular time. Reason being, if you have the goal in mind, you may have 10 different things listed on your mind, right? But unless you write it all down, you may end up forgetting or missing out of one or two. So if I say that I have 15 goals written for the day, I would obviously over expect myself and expect that I should be doing all the 15 jobs or tasks in hand. Sometimes it so happens that I'm able to complete not just those 15 tasks, but a little more.
Hmm.
And then there are times when an activity would take an unexpected longer time than I had anticipated earlier.
Hmm.
And it would therefore not let me complete all the 15 or 18 tasks that I have listed for the day. But
Hmm.
that's perfectly all right because then it anyways gets balanced, right? So
Hmm.
again, when I have the list of priorities or the goals that I have to do, I always can look back at it and then decide on what is more important than the other and get that completed and thereby help the routine to flow in an uninterrupted manner.
Wow, thank you for saying that. So I really want to know from you, do you have any particular ritual or routine, like a morning ritual or a bedtime ritual, something that's non-negotiable for you from
Yes.
a self-nourishing or self-care standpoint?
So the self-care, self-nourishing, self-love, these are terms which I have adopted as a very sacred part of my self-growth journey. And I think everybody must adopt that. And in order to follow that, some of the practices which I would never give up on is as soon as I get up, I have my morning prayers because words have power. Your thoughts have power.
Mm,
So as soon as I begin my day, it begins with a routine of prayers where I offer my gratitude for the start of the day. When I look around I still have my family, a roof over my head, offer my gratitude for this new day, the dawn and, the new sunrise, which has risen up in the sky. And I try to wake up before the sun rises in the sky. So, that very feeling that you're being bestowed with so much of blessing helps me begin the day with a positive note. And thereafter, the routine follows where I have to get the children ready for school and college or whatever, prepare their meals and, do the morning chores and other things. And once they leave for school, I would always ensure and write a gratitude journal, reflect upon the goals that I need to achieve for the day. Then, reflections on what are the tasks that are already done. If there are any previous pending tasks, check
mm,
on that and write it all down. And then have my goal list written again, like, the long term goal list, which I have written. So I keep writing that every day and reading out on it. And then, of course, I do my meditations, which is 5 or 10 minutes. And then I follow it up with my reading over coffee
mm,
if my husband is not around. But if my husband is there, then it would be a conversation with my husband over coffee.
Hmm.
And then, of course, before I have, maybe prepare for the other course of meals or other things before I get really busy with the other tasks of the day, I would generally take time out to read a book, some pages, a few pages, maybe depending on what time I have left. So half an hour, 40 minutes or whatever. So that gets me into a routine. Similarly, before bedtime, I definitely have to have a warm water bath, scrub my underfoot, cleanse myself, and be grateful for the day that passed by. And once again, get into 5 minutes of gratitude practice, offer my gratitude for what went through the day. And yeah, one more routine that is included in my morning practice is talking to myself in the mirror, giving affirmations to the image in the mirror, to the reflection in the mirror, and reminding how powerful and enriching this life has been. And, reminding my own self about the inner potentials and strengths that I have,
Hmm.
so that the body knows, the mind knows that there is so much that I've already achieved, but there is so much more that I'm yet to achieve. And it gives a reassurance to the fact that yes, I have done so far and I've come so far, and there's still a lot more to do before I go to sleep. So that is how it is. And then, of course, before I go to bed, there is always a night ritual where I practice a general meditation, calm myself down, have a heartfelt conversation with the kids and put them off to bed, and then come back. If my husband is there, I would talk to him. If he's not there, then I'd get back to reading, read for a while, and then, keep the screen time away, all the books away. And I would not indulge in a lot of screen time watching reels or something that's
Hmm.
exciting or thrilling. I
Hmm.
would read something subtle, like maybe a poetry or something that, like a romance novel or
Hmm.
something that's light on the heart, so that it can put you through a nice, peaceful, calm sleep.
Hmm.
So this is how I do it, and uh, reflecting on my journal. So sometimes I do journal on, what has gone through during the week. Once a week, I do write a journal, reflecting on what things happened during the week, what things I need to be grateful for, what I can plan for the upcoming week, and how do I intend to plan it. Just an overview of, how to go about things. So these are some of the things which I managed to do during the day. And it kind of keeps me sane and happy. And one more thing which I can never make do away with is the planning for my holidays at least a break once in every quarter. So
Hmm.
that's at least 4 breaks a year.
Hmm.
But it kind of ends up with at least 12 breaks a year. That is how often I go on a break,
Wow.
almost once a month. So yeah, that's how often I take a break. But I think it's important for you to reconnect with what your true purpose is, being able to connect back with nature and find the energies and have them stored within you so that you can work relentlessly for the rest of the month or whatever.
So when you say breaks every month, so what do you do in these breaks? Like, is it like a day out, or is it like a full-fledged vacation, or is it like just your solo trip? So what exactly do you do to?
So it could be a long drive,
Hmm.
maybe an overnight stay at some hill station,
Hmm.
enjoying the weather, or
Hmm.
overlooking a pond or a river or something like that,
Hmm.
by the mountainside. Also I'm blessed to stay in a state like Maharashtra, which has a wide variety of landscape. Uh,
Weekend getaways.
Weekend getaways. There are plenty of weekend getaways
Hmm.
within a radius of say 150 kilometers around me, which kind of gives me the privilege to travel easily within an hour or a couple of hours drive. And then I would reach the place and take a break and spend time with myself, do things that I like, maybe walk barefoot on the sand or garden or do those kind of things, and then just stay away from social media for those couple of days. Truly connect with your inner self and know what exactly you're doing. Feel happy about the butterflies or the dewdrops on leaves and simple little joys of life. Maybe just sip around hot ginger tea while
Hmm.
looking through outside the window and taking a glimpse of the wonderful view outside. So small little joys of life, and every time offering my gratitude for that blessing, for the eyes that the divine has blessed me with to be able to take in or soak in the beauty of nature around me. and always feeling that feeling of happiness that comes in from deep within me. So the sense of gratitude that always lingers about, it's probably what keeps my energy levels high. There was this time where I used to constantly crib and cry about things that were not working for me. But then
Mm,
I realized that things were always right. It was just that I was uh, pretending to be blinded about what was happening right in my life. And
mm.
then when I became more mindful about the right things happening, that is when I started realizing that life is filled with such small, tiny, little joyous moments, and we most likely tend to miss out on them. And they're so precious. So it was a discovery.
Yeah. And what was that lowest point in your life? Like where, your self-worth was perhaps at the lowest. And
Yes, that was a terrible experience, I must say. But I think a very important one too, even though it was terrible. And I always feel today that, we are given challenges in our life because the divine knows that we have the ability and the strength within us to persevere through and have the resilience to overcome those challenges and fight them through. And at my lowest, I was suffering from depression. I had attempted suicide on a couple of occasions.
mm,
And I was suffering from multiple autoimmune conditions, which included urinary tract infection, irritable bowel syndrome, vitiligo, fibromyalgia, osteoarthritis, low blood pressure, hyperacidity. I was anemic also. And I had migraine issues. I had eating disorders. I was battling with my body weight, and there were severe anger management issues. And these are just to name a few. My BP always used to be low, and I used to kind of black out most of the time. So everything was in a complete chaos in life. And also, I was being very badly impacted in terms of my relationships, my own self-worth. I had lost interest from most of the things that I used to earlier enjoy doing, whether it was singing or painting or writing, or doing all sort of reading a book or traveling or being myself. I had lost all of that. I was questioning my own very reason for existence. And that is how I ended up attempting suicide on a couple of occasions. The only, the minuscule microsecond thought that flashed across my mind and stopped me from committing suicide was the presence of my then 2-year-old daughter, 3-year-old daughter. I think that was the only reason why I probably did not commit the suicide. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here seeing this day through narrating this experience to the audience here. But I think those experiences were important. I so that I could overcome them. And from a time where I was popping in 18 pills a day, I lead a medicine-free life today. From a person who couldn't walk a single stair upstairs, I couldn't take a single step. And today I climb mountains. And that's a remarkable achievement from where I started off. There were tiny baby steps. Like they say, Rome was not built in a day. My life was also rebuilt over the years before it finally became and came to where it is today. Feel so grateful and blessed that I was given the strength and the power to overcome the strongest or the darkest moments of my life, to be who I am, and to also be able to handhold other people on my journey and transform their lives positively along with mine. That gives a sense of satisfaction and a very deep connection and bond of being empathetic to know and understand other people, their needs, and transform everybody's life, bringing about and spreading the smiles to everybody else. That's important.
wow. Thank you for sharing what you just did, Dr. Lakshmi, because I have always been a person with a lot of body weight issues. Until a few months back, I had even trouble accepting my own self. So when you were speaking about your weight issues and all the related ailments that came from not taking care of your own self, is something that I closely and intimately understand and have lived. But like you said, somewhere it needs to stop because that is also self-sabotage. And I'm on the journey of healing from the inside. And maybe it's a little too late, but ठीक है, देर आए दुरुस्त आए.
I beg to differ there, because I would say that all at a time when it is just the right time. Because
Yeah.
everything when it is meant to be. Nothing would happen before the time is right. And
Hmm.
when you come to a realization, at least you have come to a realization that reflection is now on. A lot of people just spend their time brooding until the very end of life and then regret over not working on themselves on
Hmm.
their deathbed, probably. And then it's by then it's too late.
Hmm.
But a reflection at any given point of time in life, knowing that we need to start somewhere, is a very good change already. And
Hmm.
also what I've believed is that healing is a lifelong journey.
Hmm.
You heal today, and then there is another place where you may get hurt again. And
Yeah.
at all levels, because healing works at several levels: the physical level, the emotional level, the mental
Right.
level, the spiritual level, and even the ethereal level. So it is a wider aspect of healing that we are looking at. We just don't want to heal our physical body and what
Correct.
appears on the outside. There
Correct.
is a lot of baggage that we are carrying unknowingly behind us because it is not appearing in front of us. We are probably unaware of it. And because we've been carrying it for so long, it seems like, okay, it is probably that which exists. I mean, it's natural, or you don't probably realize it before you actually turn your back and look at the baggage on your back, which you don't want anymore.
Hmm.
But as long as you are able to realize and come to a fact that, yes, this is not something which I want anymore, you shed it and move ahead. That is important. The reflection and knowing and understanding. And once you do that, I already see that, you have changed and grown and bloomed and blossomed so much over the last 1.5 years that we've connected and been together. I'm so proud of the way you are nourishing yourself, and there is a major glow up from where you started.
Thank you so much. And I feel this is just the beginning, and there's a lot of cleansing that needs to go on. And while I'm in this journey for myself, I have now also mustered the courage to help people along the way.
Absolutely.
So that is another big change that I'm seeing in myself, which I wouldn't have thought of even a couple of months earlier. So, and I actually think that it is a lot to do with the kind of people I've been meeting through my author journey, through the podcasts, all the great people who are giving me energy boosters every time I speak to them. And I feel truly blessed even to be having a conversation with people like you, people that have come to this podcast earlier as well. And I am nobody to even be asking questions to a lot of people. But the very fact that, somewhere along our lives, we have met each other, we have connected, and we have had this divine bond which brings us together on a purpose. And I feel truly blessed to be doing this in a way. And I feel we're all doing a little bit of God's work in a different sense.
Yes.
So, while I
Uh,
also receive that divine grace, we should also be ready to give it back. And that is the biggest lesson I've had over the last few days. Because if you're constantly studying, if you're constantly acquiring skills and not sharing it, that is also a form of hoarding, which I never really understood until this point, which I'm
Absolutely.
opening up to now from this moment on. And I hope something better will come out of this journey.
I feel that, it's a learning process. And when you become mindful of your, the blessings that has come to you, that the superpowers that have been bestowed upon you, you also come to realize that, this is not for me to keep. This is for me to spread.
Yeah,
And when that realization strikes in, it's a beautiful realization, and it definitely helps. And it is like putting in a little droplets of water as you walk through the journey and letting the flowers and buds blossom through on either side.
hmm.
So a little crack in the pot is good because it drops the water, helping the flower buds bloom
Wow,
along the way.
wow.
So there is also this Japanese concept called the kintsugi, where
Yeah,
broken pottery is filled with gold lacquer, so that it enhances the value of what otherwise seems imperfect. So
yeah.
there is no concept of perfection. It is the perfection that we bring about through the imperfections in us, and that is what is important. And as long as we realize that, we are good to go.
Awesome. I am very curious to know about your recent trek. That is something you've been wanting to do for a long time. You
Yes.
mentioned the Himalayan trek. So tell us more about it.
So I have been an ardent orophile for the last decade or so, maybe more than that. It's been 13 or 14 long years since I've been into trekking. And this challenge came up to me because a couple of surgeons in 2006 had suggested that unless I undergo a surgery, I would be bedridden for life. And I obviously was just, in my mid 20s back then, or early 20s, mid 20s, about 24 or 25, when I underwent a back accident and I was bedridden for over a year. And when the doctors or the surgeons mentioned this, my family and me were apprehensive about undergoing a major surgery at that younger age because I did not even have children then. So it was a major decision to make, and I decided that I would initially try out yoga and some physiotherapy to help heal my back. Fortunately, I did not undergo the knife or the surgery. I just adopted different practices of yoga, stretching exercises, Reiki healing, and a lot of other modalities that helped me get better in my physical body. And the biggest challenge I then gave myself, it was like I need to go and soar or reach mountain peaks. It was a challenge that I gave to myself to defy the statement given by the orthopedic surgeon stating that you would be probably bedridden for life if you don't undergo the knife. And I
Hmm.
wanted to prove him wrong, not for him, but for myself, to give a true identity to my inner power,
Hmm.
to know that my body has the ability to heal itself from within. And that's how my Orofield journey started. My very first journey was to the Kailash Mansarovar, which was 5,800 meters above sea level.
Amazing.
Which was over 19,000 feet above sea level, which is probably the highest peak that I have reached. And there was so much hype about Everest base camp that was doing its rounds. And I felt that I'm already in my mid 40s now. I better take this trek up before it's too late. I know that it wouldn't be too late. I feel like a 16-year-old or an 18-year-old. That's the kind of energy that I have in me. So I said, okay, if I'm getting a chance, why not take it up? It was a very sudden decision, and I signed myself up for it. It was a very exciting thing. I was apprehensive on one end, knowing that it was one of the most difficult treks that humans have done, and it comes under the difficult trails or treks of the world. So, having signed up for this great challenge, I started working towards it. And then there were, like challenges in the form of demotivating talks coming from a lot of people around me. But I had this very clear idea or this vision of wanting to soar the peak, conquer the peak. So I relentlessly kept working on it, and finally I was up there. The reason why it is difficult is because not because of the terrain. I have done more difficult terrains than that. The reason why it is difficult is because it is a continuous 12-day trek where you have to walk an average of 9 to 10 hours every day.
Wow.
And you start at 2,800 meters, reach and scale up to 5,365 meters above sea level. And then you descend it all within 3 days. The continuous path of walking and trekking for 12 long days is what makes the trek very, very challenging. Every single day I used to start with a good josh within me, stating that yes, I can do it. And after, considering that it is an average of 10-hour trek, every 1 hour I used to say 10% of today's trek is complete. 20% of today's trek is complete. And that is how every hour on the hour I would clock it up and
Hmm.
say that so I have achieved 30% of where I started off from and so on. That kept me motivated. There were challenges along the way, but I think the biggest challenge that came to me was on the second last day when I was descending down.
Hmm.
While you descend, there is a lot of friction
Hmm.
that occurs between the soles of the feet and the shoes that you're wearing. So that led to creating major blisters underfoot. And on the second last day, which is the 11th day of my trek, I had almost given up. I was like, you know, would I be able to complete this?
Hmm.
After reaching the peak, after going right up to the Everest base camp, doing the Gorak Shade, the Kala Patthar, doing all of that, having achieved so much,
Hmm.
should I be giving up after doing 90% of the trek? Was a question on my mind.
Hmm.
So the only thing that I could resort to at that moment was my healing.
Mm.
So, and also along with the blisters, I had a severe cramp on my knee. I didn't know, like the cramp was just there. It refused to leave.
Mm.
And I was like, how would I be able to complete this? Should I be taking the helicopter back to the base
Mm.
just when there is a single day left? Is it really worth it? And that is when, I have this conversation with my God, my Shiva, who is the ruler of the mountain. And I told him, look, this is your territory. This is your terrain. You rule here. And I have come as your guest, as your baby, as your child. And it is your responsibility to offer your hospitality in whatever possible way, like because I'm in your terrain, you are to guide me through this path because this is unknown to me. This is a stranger world to me. And if I am to lose this battle, it would be your loss rather than mine. And would you want to take that loss for yourself? Would you want to take the credit or the debit of that loss? This is how I question him. And with a complete surrender and faith, I soaked my feet in some hot water with some raw salt crystals on them. Then I applied some base oil which I had with me, some painkiller oil on my feet. I did not consume any medicines orally, just this liniment oil which I had and the hot water leg soaking for the blisters to ease up or calm down.
Mm.
And I did some Reiki. I prayed to my Shiva, my guru, and I simply slept. I had to wake up early the next morning, again at 5 o'clock to start my trek at 6 a.m. And on that particular day, I decided that I will start maybe an hour early than the rest so that I can cover up. Even if I'm a little slow, I would be able to cover up.
Mm.
There was this young little guide with me, a Sherpa guide from Nepal, who was there with me, supporting me. And the best part is he was just 17 years old, the same age as my daughter back then. And one day prior, when I had lost all my hope, I had given up on all this, whether or not I'd be able to complete it with the blisters under feet and with the cramp on my knee. I was questioning myself, and he said that I'm not sure, ma'am, whether you'll be able to complete this. This was his statement.
Mm.
The next day, I was one of the first to reach the final, base camp. And he was like, ma'am, is it the same person that I'm working with today that I walked with yesterday?
Mm.
It was nothing short of a miracle. I think
Wow.
it was that heartfelt conversation with the superpower, the divine surrender, which is, I think, the most important, uh, I would say, the key element to this whole process. When you surrender yourself and know that you cannot take charge of the situation, you got nothing to do here. It is more important to surrender to a source which has greater power and
Then,
whose power cannot be defined.
yeah.
And when you do that, they take charge. And I was surprised by his statement, and I was surprised at myself. I literally surprised myself. And when I reached the camp well before time, and I was totally elated. I was jumping in joy, and that is when I realized that I truly need to appreciate the word that he kept when I gave him that statement that, do you want your loss here? Do you want to fail? Because if I fail, it's your failure, not mine. And I think that one statement of complete surrender with a faith that he would help me cross over is what finally took me there to the destination. I completed with a lot of elan and a lot of grace. I think I would remember this particular incident or moment for a very, very long time. Yeah. It was brilliant. It was surreal in a way.
I mean, just listening to you, I had goosebumps because it's not just about that physical journey of climbing a certain mountain or, reaching a certain place. It's also your test of your mental threshold, your spiritual threshold of what you
Everything.
can
Yeah.
accomplish, if you just let go, and no harness, no nothing. Are you still ready to just let go of everything and see that, there is a divine source you can plug into? This is a very, very valuable lesson. And I'm glad that we're ending this season with such important nuggets of wisdom, and this had to come from you. And I was very, very keen on having you as the last speaker for the season for this very reason, because when you speak from the heart, you give a lot of valuable, it's not just insights that you're imparting, you are teaching us a way to live. So thank you so much for doing that and sharing the whole spiritual experience that you went through your trek. I'm speechless.
So thank you, Nisha. I think I'm almost at the brink of being overwhelmed by the conversation that we've just had, because it was a very stark reminder of the beautiful experiences that I recently had. It reflected back and brought them fresh to my memories again. And what I've always felt is that, we are learning every single day, but we would only learn if you're open to the experience of learning,
Mm,
to know and understand that we are first students for life. That is when you can become a good teacher who can impart that gained knowledge and convert it into wisdom before imparting it to others, because knowledge is just a collection of information that you process and store within you, but wisdom is imparting the right amount and the right kind of uh, what is needed in a situation for the other person to understand and make their life impactful and transformative. So that is the difference between knowledge and wisdom. So in this journey, I have been truly blessed by wonderful mentors, friends, people, and like-minded souls around me who have helped me grow, know, and understand my true inner powers. And I'm so glad that we have been a harbinger of growth and prosperity and abundance for each other in all the encounters that I've made through my life. So truly grateful for this opportunity once again, Nisha. I feel so overwhelmed and fully grateful for this wonderful opportunity. I think this conversation can go on, but we can keep our conversations for another time. I hope that the audience would take away some little bits and tiny snippets of wisdom through this conversation. And heartfelt gratitude and thank you very much. Loads
thank,
of love and light always, Lakshmi.
thank you.